super excited with all these great city council people out there. Youth council.
All right. We'd like to welcome everybody out to our city council meeting here on July 11th, 2018. Quite a few members in the audience. All right, we will get started by having a Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by Scout Troop 1468 at this time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. At this time, are there any conflicts of interest that the council would like to disclose? No? Okay. Moving forward, council comments or recognitions? No? Okay. At this time, we will go ahead and open up our public comment section of our meeting. Audience members may bring any item to the mayor and council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. If you have a public comment that you would like to make this time, please feel free to stand up to the podium and give that at this time. All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and close that public comment section of this meeting. Moving on to our next item, we will have any council, board, or committee reports at this time.
Do you want to go? I have the one. I serve on the garbage board, Wasatch Front Waste and Recycle. And we had our board meeting a couple of weeks ago now. And I will just share some of the information. I know the mayor had reached out to me about an article that was published, I believe, on KSL about considering doing away with the recycling program. I think that conversation is always out there. And it's been a very interesting process for me, and you guys are probably all know all this. And so I'll just be the only one in the not know that I'm in the know now about recycling. I always just thought, okay, my pizza box is recyclable, so I huck it in the recycle. Well, guess what? If your pizza box has any grease on it, it is contaminated and it is no longer recyclable. Another habit that we have in our house is we have 2 cans. We have 1 can for garbage and we have 1 can for recycle. Well, the recyclable and the garbage can both have a plastic garbage sack in them. If your recyclables are in a plastic garbage sack, like a big 30-gallon whatever, that is contaminant. Those cannot be recycled, and they do not want your recyclables in those bags. So what's happening is that's interesting terminology, tons of this stuff goes to China. Tons of the recyclables are separated, and they're sold to the Chinese market. And because of that, there's not enough competition in there, and so these prices really fluctuate a lot. So again, in my naive mind, I always thought, well, recycle should be cheaper for us because we should be making money on it, and it's really not the case. So recycling costs us, I'll tell you, about $40 per ton to recycle, whereas garbage costs $32 per ton. So it's more expensive to have recyclables than garbage. Now, the benefit of recyclables is obvious because we're not filling up the landfill. So it is a premium, but it comes back to us in that we're not continually expanding landfills and trying to work with our environment and reuse our things that can be reused. So there's definitely a benefit there. But because there's not enough competition really in that market, the Chinese can really dictate those prices of those commodities. So right now, if you're hucking your newspapers in your recycle bin, there's no market for those right now. Those are actually a cost to process. So they've really scaled down on what they'd like you to recycle, because right now, because the Chinese have changed how much recyclable contamination they will allow, we've had to really restructure the recycling process. So they've had to hire a lot more people to sort through recyclables and get out what they consider contaminants. So there's about 25% of the things that goes to the recycling facilities that is actually considered contaminated. So they have had to hire quite a few more people on the line to physically pick that stuff out. So really what you need to be recycling is steel cans. So if you have a can of corn or something like that, those can be recycled. Heavier plastics like a pop bottle or a milk jug, those things can be recycled. Cardboard boxes that are clean, not empty pizza boxes, unless it's just the top lid and it doesn't have any grease on it. So we just have to be much more careful about what we're putting in our recycling bin, and then that will help to drive some of those costs down, because then they won't have to have as many people sorting out the contaminants. It's a process. I think that if you watch the charts, the prices are up here, and then they're down here, and then they're up here, and then they're down here. So it's kind of like the stock market. They're doing this all the time. But currently, the pricing doesn't say it's a good time to stop recycling. Let's just wait and see what the market's doing right now. So that's kind of the decision that the board has made, to just let's continue to watch this market and see what it does. See if we can start looking, at other alternatives. I think a really good idea, and something that we continue to focus on, is more competition in that market. And it would sure be nice if the competition was here in the States rather than shipping everything to a foreign country. If we can figure out, doing some more recycling plants here. I know glass recycling. We've got the fiberglass company, and I can't think of their name, here in Utah, that Owens Fiberglass, is that what it is? Owens Corning, that recycle here in Utah. So any of your glass, if you take it to the glass recycling facility, they're doing that here in Utah. So I think that the direction is really just to try and continue to look at alternatives that will bring more competition in that recycling markets, so that the prices can be more stable rather than always being dictated by kind of one big arm of that process. So that is kind of the update from the garbage collection. I think that they do a good job. I think that we need to stick with recycling, but I also think that we need to be careful about the cost of it. We have to continue to monitor that, so it's not constantly, a cost increase to us as residents. And again, if you can really be vigilant about what's going in those recycling cans, you can take a lesson from me and stop putting your plastic bags in there, because those are not good. I knew you couldn't do the little grocery bags, but you don't want to do the big bags either. So that's kind of my report.
Any other reports from the council?
I'll just add anything necessary to the chief's report on.
Okay. I do sit on the mosquito abatement district board, and we recently had there was a hawk that was discovered in South Jordan that had contracted the West Nile virus. At this time, no human cases have been found, and as of the report, as of Monday, the district goes out and traps mosquitoes and tests the mosquitoes for West Nile virus. They have not located any mosquitoes that have the West Nile virus. However, there has been a report, and so the mosquito abatement district is working to make sure that as many precautions are in place or as possible to avoid any possible outbreaks that may come. This is just a good reminder, however, that it is the time of year, especially with the number of frequent rainstorms we've had in the last couple of days, that you want to make sure that you are removing any standing water that may be in and around your home. If there is a location that has mosquitoes, that there's some concerns with mosquitoes, please feel free to reach out to the South Valley Mosquito Abatement District. They will happily come out and do what they can to treat and to mitigate those problems. It's a pretty big concern. We want to make sure that the community is aware of it. Okay. All right. If there are no further reports, we will go ahead and move on to item 4.1, oath of office and introduction of the 2018-2019 Youth Council. Destiny.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity tonight to introduce the Youth Council. As you know, each year I'm privileged to be able to work with them, and each year it continues to grow. When I first started working with the Youth Council, we had, I believe, less than 10 members. Last year we had 22, and this year we will have 26 members. Before I introduce the new members, I would like to congratulate the 12 youth from last year who earned the $100 scholarship for their participation in Youth Council. And they are Justin Anderson, Ruth Barnum, Jaden Bennett, Taylor Chang, Lauren Christiansen, Abby Edwards, Emily Fernley, Alexander Hill, Kayla Height, Liam Height, Reagan Polson, and Grace Watson. So we just wanted to congratulate them publicly. And with that, I would like to introduce this year's Youth Council. Just so you know, we have 13 returning members and 13 new. And as I say your name, if you guys would come up and stand up here for the oath of office. We have Olivia Allen, Justin Anderson, Jaden Bennett, the Chang.
Yes, thank you.
Don't see her. Tanner Christensen. Emma Conley. Don't see her either. Tyler Davis. Abby Edwards. Emily Fernley. Coleman Gagnon. Sabra Griffith. Kayla Height. Liam Height. Okay. McKenna Ingleby. Randy Jones. Abby Kinniston. Grace Pelch. Reagan Polson. Chrissy Robinson. Ann Sow. As well as Leah Sow. Grace Watson. And then we have Alexander Hill, Jake Didenhover, Rory Taylor, and Brooklyn Vasica that were unable to make it tonight as well. And now Jackie will do the oath of office. If you guys wanted to come down, maybe shake their hands and then get a group picture, that would be awesome.
If I could just say, Destiny, that's the same oath of office we all take as well, right?
We didn't get to cheat with a sheet of paper, though.
If you guys want to kind of group up together to the front.
One thing to note while we're getting back to our seats, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Herriman has one of the largest youth city councils in the entire state, probably. And so it says something that we have youth that want to be engaged, and also that we're willing to put forward the resources to have you engaged. We're a better city as a result of that. And so the fact that you wrap clear around the dais says something about our community. I think is one of the highlights of this night. So well done to all of you, and thank you for being a part of that. We have good, yes, good staff, absolutely, that makes it fun and a learning and a learning opportunity. So Destiny, well done.
Yeah. So I will second that on Destiny. She is amazing with your youth. She works so hard at making sure they have a great opportunity to learn and grow. So thanks, Destiny.
And now since you take the same oath of office we do, you get to stay the rest of the night like we do.
You come up here and we'll go home.
It's pressure.
Any further comments by the council before we move on? No. I just want to say congratulations, guys. You are awesome and a credit to our community. We appreciate it. So thank you very much. And I think with the council's permission, I think we will give them the nod that it's okay if they want to leave, that it's...
I just told them no.
No, not okay.
Well, fine then. I tried, guys. I just remembered.
First test of your dedication.
Not all fun and games. You just stay put.
All right, we will move on to item 4.2, resolution to appoint two planning commissioners and one alternate planning commissioner. Michael Malloy.
The Assistant City Manager, Gordon Haight, just told me that Johnny Carson said never go on stage after any act with children, so.
It's all downhill from
That's
here.
right. I'm pleased to present 3 appointees for your consideration tonight. We recently had a Planning Commission member, Curtis Noble, resign from the Planning Commission. He had been given some years of service on the commission. That created a vacancy, as well as we did have one regular position that had been unfilled prior to this. So we're proposing that the council consider appointing Andrea Bradford, who is currently serving as an alternate, to fill Curtis Noble's term as a regular member of the Planning Commission. Jackson Ferguson, who was recently appointed as an alternate, that he too be a full member of the Planning Commission. And then our third recommendation is to appoint a new alternate, Perry Harrison, who is here. All 3 of our candidates are in the audience tonight. And I'm very delighted to present these 3 names to you for your consideration.
Who do we get to grill first? I'm just kidding.
Oh, the one that makes good eye contact.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
Would you mind introducing those to the council and to the public again real quick for us?
Sure. Please, yeah, this is Perry Harrison. He was a candidate in our last round of interviews that we did a few months ago. And I believe you're a cost estimator, is that right?
Sure, yeah.
With a well-known builder, but a builder who's not active in Herriman currently. And when we met, and I was very impressed, and so I stayed in touch with him over the last few months to see if he might still be interested if there were a future vacancy. And he immediately said yes, so I was very happy to present him before you tonight. And then again, Jackson Ferguson is a registered architect with FFKR in Salt Lake and a long-term resident of Herriman. And Andrea Bradford, who also has had some excitement in her life in that they have been in the process of adopting a baby. So, and you've been on the commission now, how long as an alternate? 2 years. So these are our 3 candidates again for your consideration tonight.
Oh, he's back. Appreciate that.
That was a close one, Perry. It was close.
You may have just swayed. No, I'm just kidding. So, any questions or comments by the council at this time?
Just to thank you for your desire to serve. I've said before that I think the Planning Commission is probably one of the most vital roles in a fast-growing city, very complicated matters that you deal with, and so you're giving of your time freely, and it's appreciated.
And we all say how this is a thankless job, but we do get some accolades sometimes. That is a very thankless job.
Yeah,
So we'll say thank you in advance.
Yeah, that's exactly why I chose to move up. I will just say, as someone who served on the Planning Commission for several years, it's a body that is near and dear to me. I do recognize the amount of work that body puts in, and again, with little to no thanks, because it is such an important job, and there is a lot put on you as a Planning Commission as those applications come in. And so I'm very grateful that we have such highly qualified and skilled people who want to be involved in our community, because that's where success is made, is when we have our residents that want to be involved and want to make a difference. And I think we're very, very fortunate. Again, my time on the Planning Commission, we went through some times where we didn't have the interest level that I think that exists now. We're in a growing community. You get a lot of experience sitting on the Planning Commission right now. And to the new alternate, Perry, I think you'll have a huge opportunity now to come in and to start to learn that process, and to someday shake your head and think, what have I gotten myself into? But you have some great people there that have been experienced and sat on there for a while and can provide some good direction. And beyond that, you have phenomenal staff to help point you in the right direction. To our new potential full new members, just know that the expectations that we've expressed still remain, that you are active, that you are engaged, that you're continually studying the issues and come prepared to give your input each meeting, because that's where I think that good discussion is where we come out with better products in the end, and that only happens from dedicated and engaged Planning Commission members. So continue to do so, and we will continue to have great success in our community.
I would wholeheartedly second that. I've said several times in the couple years I've been sitting up here, my first interaction with the city was with the Planning Commission. That's how a lot of us got involved in a lot of this stuff, and I've said many times that I think a lot of the decisions that you guys make in that body are more important than a lot of the ones that we do here. That's been debated at certain times, but I really feel that that's the case. So the job that you guys do is that important and needs that kind of preparation and attention. So look forward to seeing you guys there.
Thank you. I agree. Ditto. You guys are the ones that always have to tell people yes or no, and sometimes you say yes and everybody's mad because you didn't say no. So I'm glad that's you and not me.
And I was lucky enough, along with a couple other council members, to participate in the interviews, and I've met with each of you, and I look forward to seeing what projects come forward to our city, and for making sure that they are absolutely scrutinized with the eye that any resident in our community has, because they are very discerning and they are very attuned to what's going on, and it's you're kind of the front line to make sure that you're helping keep the vision of our city and helping keep the the feel of Herriman. And so we appreciate your willingness to serve, and we look forward to seeing what comes forward before us in the future. So thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Motion to approve resolution number R36-2018, appointing 2 members and 1 alternate member to the Planning Commission.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. That motion passes. Congratulations, you guys. Thank you.
And now we'll lose most of the rest of
Well,
our
Andrea
audience.
will have a night to get out of the house and leave all the baby duties then. Congratulations on that new addition. That's excellent.
All right. Okay, we will move on to item 4.3, Herriman Police Department update from our police chief, Troy Carr.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I was just talking to Riley, and he said never to follow a city planner. So, I don't know. That's all I've got. Exciting time since I've talked to you last, and most of you have been on my weekly updates. But for everybody else, we've moved through some very exciting times. Let's talk about the fleet and asset transition first. You've probably seen those white trucks sitting out there for a while. 2 of them went today to get black. So they're down being rebranded as we speak. The other 2 will follow immediately after that. And to that end, we received 7 titles from UPD last week. Those 7 titles, 2 of them are administrative cars, or detective cars. 4 were the marked patrol trucks that you saw sitting down there, the white ones. And 1 was a Harley Davidson. So those were the ones that were directly attributed to us that were not necessarily in use for the UPD mission.
Sorry, Chief, if I can interject, just the budgetary part of it, clarification for the public. Those are vehicles we've paid for that basically have not been being used.
Correct. Yeah, they've been sitting out there for 3 months, probably, close to 3 months. In fact, one of them we can't get started, so we're working on that to get it up and running.
So it was provided to us in that condition?
No, I think it just sat there long enough.
Just sat there.
to die.
That was just a question.
No, it drove into the lot. I just think it's been a while. So additionally, the UPD's kind of broken down the asset transition into 2 categories, and that's precinct direct and pooled services. So the precinct direct are those things like those trucks that you see sitting out there that aren't being used currently. Those assets are being turned over directly, and as it occurs, maybe somebody gets transferred out, that truck would come to us. The pooled services assets are a little bit different, and they're trying to work through a formula even themselves. We do suspect that we'll have some sort of notification to us next week, possibly a meeting, where we can talk more about those pooled services units. So hopefully I'll have more to report on that next time, and there's some movement forward on that. Dispatch and records, the VPN from VEC has been completed, as I understand it, last Friday or Monday, I don't recall which. That's a big deal. And what that does is it sets it up for our BCI. John Inch, how are you, sir? Good. Good to see you. And please jump in here if you may. John Inch is with VEC, if you don't know, and he has done an amazing job to set all things aside and move mountains, literally, for us. We keep hearing that there's no way this can be done in 4 months, but our partners have come through for us at the highest level and are literally moving mountains. Spillman, VEC, everybody that told us it couldn't happen, they're making sure it happens. So we're very excited about that. Do you have anything you want to offer on that, or?
I'm just here to support and answer any questions.
Okay. One more thing before we get to that. The BCI audit should start very soon with our IT. Alan, it is an extensive process. So that's why we're very happy that the VPN's set up. Everything's in place for that to begin. In fact, I think it has actually begun, right? So a very extensive thing that our IT services, they've done an amazing job on so far, and we'll continue. So, but I'd like to turn the time over to John Inch if you want to answer any questions on dispatch, specifically VEC or our RMS system that's Spillman.
I don't think we even know what to ask.
So there's a couple of things that we're working with Troy and his team to do. And the first one is to make sure we have connectivity so that we can dispatch and we can maintain records and what have you. One of the things that we have done is we've partitioned a part of our existing server, and we offer this to all of our members to house their records. So we're kind of the cloud over in West Valley City, so that the records could be maintained on a part of our server. And that is one part that we're dealing with right now. As far as the BCI and the secure connectivity, those kinds of things, is we will, through one of our channels, be able to handle all of the traffic that Herriman generates. What we found out, just through some analysis, is that last year there was about 5,000 911 calls that hit our switch. We anticipate that with new police departments coming on, there would be an increase of about 25 to 50%. And so what you put into your budget as a member assessment, and the member assessment for everybody in the valley, is just about $9.35. That amount covers all aspects of our service to your police department. So we've got all of that taken care of. We're ready to roll. As soon as you push the button, we're ready to answer the call.
And we're confident that all of that will switch over. Additionally, Vivek is helping us test a new system to us and most of the valley, if I'm not mistaken, and that's a tablet. We want our officers to be using a tablet. So imagine, if you will, for a minute, an officer pulls up to a scene and there's some suspects that are out on the curb. Right now you'll see the officer walk out of his car and go get all their names. He walks back. He may get his camera out and go take a picture of them. He may have to walk back. He has to run them at his car, which is very dangerous, while they're sitting up front. What we envision is that officer taking that tablet, walking out front, taking the picture with the tablet, running their names while he's standing there talking to them. All the information comes back. No MiFi cards, right. No other containable issues that prevent an officer from being safe while they're interacting with the suspect. And to that end, being able to take it into a home on a family fight or something like that, where he has all that, or he or she has all that information right there in their hands, not tethered to the car. So we're hoping that that will continue testing, hopefully maybe next week.
Right.
If we can get it up and running.
We've successfully tested it in a couple of places, and we will be rolling this out for the entire county over the next couple of months to make sure that everybody has it. This system is agnostic to the type of tablet or iPhone or Android phone that you have, and so it could be your phone, it could be a tablet, it could be a number of different things, but it gives you the capacity to deal with that immediately. Not only for police, but also fire will have that same capacity.
Very exciting time for us. So we're hoping to give that officer the ability to be innovative and safe and create a better work product quicker, more efficient. And so for us, that's a very exciting thing. The days of those big laptops that they drag in and out are over. I think that's about it from our perspective. Does anybody else have any questions?
Just a comment, if I may, just for public dissemination. As we went through our decision-making process and ultimately made the decision to go this direction, dispatch was one of our biggest concerns as far as the timeline of when we could be up and running. So just to reiterate your point, it was a major concern, but after just a few phone calls, John H. took care of those concerns, and guys have come through, I think, much faster than we even anticipated. So just many thanks for moving those mountains.
And as a point of reference, I'm assuming it takes several months for typically a transition like this to take place.
Yeah.
You know, far more than the time frame we've given them, and man, did they come through. Just 100%.
We appreciate the dedication to our community.
To your point, it takes great partners, and with VEC, we have a great partner. And we're lucky enough that John's actually a member of our community as well, so he wants to make sure he gets it right, too.
Make sure the 911 calls are answered, for sure. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Let's talk about personnel for a minute. We have hired or extended offers to a few people. One very exciting person is Karen Blazer. You may know her from down at the main window at UPD. She accepted a job offer with us and will be starting Monday. And anybody knows that as you go through a transition, we're never greater than the sum of our parts, and Karen, we need to have Karen in place for this to work, and she's just an amazing person, and we're happy to have her. So again, she starts Monday. She'll be upstairs with us as we start our transition. Record specialist, the job has been offered. I don't know if she's told her employer, so I'll probably not say her name, as has the evidence control and forensic specialist. So 3 now very exciting job offers are out. Today, we completed the sergeant interviews. You'll be glad to know that we received 47 qualified applicants for sergeant, 47 qualified. There were a lot of people that applied for 5 positions total. We posted the officers the end of last week, and currently we have about 100 applicants. It closes Sunday. We expect that we'll be going through a whole lot of applications to get exactly who we want. And I can tell you with all assurity, I've seen the names of the sergeants. The command staff brought it to me. It is an amazing group that we've built. So you'll be very proud and very happy to see these guys. Very talented, certifications, qualifications, education, outstanding, like I've never seen. Let's talk about the last week of July. By the last week of July, and in assistance to UPD, we should have all job offers out. What that will do is help them with their bidding process as they move pieces around. And Brian, please, I ask you to come up at any moment and say whatever you need to say. As far as those employment opportunities going out, what that does is it allows UP to transfer those that need to be transferred and allow them to bid when they get to their homes, if they choose to stay, rather than come with us. Is that fairly well stated? Yes. Is that okay?
So, Chief, I might have a question just along that line, and maybe this is more for the lieutenant here. You know, obviously, as a body, you know, our concern is making sure that we have our community covered at any time during this transition. What is the plan to ensure that once we have some of our officers, which we would expect to move from the UPD to Herriman PD, what's the plan to ensure that, especially during that 2 week, you know, in September, when there's going to be, all of those officers are going to be, you know, occupied with training and with certification and not have the ability to provide services in our city because they will be working for Herriman PD during that initial 2 week prior to the September 30th turnover.
Right.
How are we going to make sure that we get the staffing that we need? Because obviously we're not going to refill those positions, and so it'll all be constant manning. What's the plan to ensure that we have that coverage during that time?
We don't have a plan in place just yet, but we will be working with our other precincts and the other precinct commanders in getting officers into the city to make sure that public safety is provided during that time. That's something that we do need to work with Chief Carr with, and getting the exact times and shifts that need to be covered. We also want to see which officers are going to be coming from Herriman to the new Herriman Police Department, but also which ones are going to be coming outside in. So we need to see those names and really put it down on paper and get that plan going.
I guess what I would ask, and hopefully I think that council would like to see this as well, once those offers have been made and extended, if between the two of you, you would bring back a plan for us so that we can have that information available ahead of time?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons that we wanted that hire date to be moved up, so we could start making those plans, and in which that was provided to us, because we need to make plans on our side as well with our other cities.
We appreciate it, and I'm fully confident that UPD is here to ensure the safety of our residents until the transition.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate that. We just want to make sure that we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's.
Yes, we're making plans with everything. With the addition of Karen, we've made the administrative adjustments on our side downstairs to make sure we have a flow of operations. Even without Karen, she's a huge part of our office, and we're going to miss her, but we understand. And yeah, you got a great one there.
Yeah, we know it, and we're excited. So
The true badge one.
Yes.
And just so you're aware, we've run into a little bit of difficulty in that we can't release to UPD the names of the people that we've offered employment to. It's really incumbent upon them to notify their employer, and we wouldn't want to jeopardize any of that. So we'll work closely together and try and as we extend job offers, we're going to ask, please, make notification of your employer as you see appropriate. But we can't for them. So it's been a point of discussion between us and how we get the message to them that, hey, A, B, and C are coming, and, X, Y, and Z are not. So we'll work more closely on that as the time nears. But as it stands right now, I've got a fantastic working relationship operationally with Lieutenant Lorkey. So we couldn't have been actually more fortunate to get him in here as the interim. So I really appreciate it. That's about it. Yeah, that's about it as far as that goes. We have released the HPD salary plan to the officers that qualify, so that they kind of know where they fit into the scheme of that. With that becomes seniority. Once job offers are extended, they'll be able to see where they fit seniority-wise. And seniority in government is a big deal. Private sector, not so much, but in government, because you work shift work, that's how we determine who is on and who is not. And so for those officers, it's a really big deal. Let's talk real quickly about evidence storage. As you know, that's a concern. We have to do that here locally now in our entity. It was something that we paid for in the pooled services program, but now we'll be doing it locally. And Justin and Monty's crews are down working diligently to start making that retrofit happen. Probably will be done, completed, and inspected mid-August and ready for that process. The police armory, along with that as well, the police armory plans have been completed and equipment's being purchased to go into that armory and manage our weapon systems as they begin to get ordered this next week. Police policy, today we actually met with Lexipol at 3 o'clock. Everything's in place. It'll be delivered tomorrow. We'll begin our training on it the day after. Things are moving very quickly, and they've been very good to work with us and make sure that happens. So Where I was previously employed, we used Lexipol, as did the other commanders, and so we'll be able to move on that very quickly and get it in place. Policy for fire and police is a huge part of the program, and it's also a liability issue, so we want to be on top of that. The next is a piece I probably would like to share with Councilmember Smith to talk about. Last Friday, we engaged with Draper and Agency Assist, where we took our 4 trucks out there and assisted in Brian Thatcher's sudden passing. What we assisted with was the procession to Corner Canyon and from Corner Canyon later that afternoon. It was an amazing opportunity to build that partnership, and quite frankly, to have been contacted and allowed, because he was a resident, to have our trucks there in line with the Draper PD cars was really something quite touching for us so early on in our existence.
Yeah, I'll just say, obviously, the other hat that I wear outside of the council, involved in public safety and the fire service especially. Brian Thatcher, who was a Herriman resident, but also the fire marshal for the agency that I work for over at Draper Fire. A key member of our team over there, and a very sudden and unexpected passing, which was a very challenging thing for our agency, but not near as challenging as it was for the family, of course. And so from our side, we wanted to honor him appropriately as an active member of our department and of the fire service at his funeral. And because of some of his personal desires and things, there was this need for an escort. And I'd already had Chief Carr reach out and express his condolences first off, but offer his assistance. And again, we found it very fitting with Brian being a resident of Herriman to allow them to help us and assist us. And I think, well, I'm still getting comments of just how touched the family was in everything that was done, and it wouldn't have been possible without the assistance of Troy Carr and Chief Carr and the rest of his personnel currently to make that happen. So from myself, from Draper City, and from the family, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was our honor. Absolutely. That kind of wraps up what I have for you today. Do you have any questions for me, for things that, as we have progressed, that concern you or you want more information on?
I'll just make comment that UPD board meeting is next week if they hold it for July, which I'm assuming they will. The preliminary state auditor results came out today. They're preliminary. They can't be shared publicly yet, so we're interested to see how all that kind of plays out as part of this process as we continue our kind of negotiation to separate. So I'll hopefully be able to give you a better update next week.
Awesome. I'm proud to say that we're on time, we're on track. I am not concerned by anything right now, but that has to do with the amazing partnerships we have. And financially, we're right where we need to be, where we thought we'd be. So I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. All right, we will move on to our next item, item 4.4, Unified Fire Report on the fireworks over the holiday. Chief Pilgrim.
All right, Mayor and Council, kind of appreciate this opportunity to come up here and kind of share what we experienced on the 4th of July and how our evening went and some of our thoughts moving forward. So leading up to the 4th of July, we had kind of expected the worst, kind of planned for the worst, hope for the best. Even the day of, we were talking potentially increasing some restrictions in some higher risk areas, especially due to the fire behavior increasing around the state of Utah. Right before the 4th of July, we had the Dollar Ridge fire start up in Duchesne County and a couple other smaller fires that were picking up. So there was some concern that the 4th of July might present some unique challenges that we weren't hoping to have. Well, it was a nice calm evening. I'd like to share that. I was a little concerned. We started off 8 o'clock. We had our first fire in Herriman, right off of Yukon Park and 5600 West, right on the border of a restricted area. Reports of fireworks, someone driving by and shooting them out of a car. Lit about a quarter-acre fire just in a little ravine off of 5600 West. 103 was there, immediately contained the fire. Wasn't really a huge issue, a little more excitement than it was an issue to any property. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be a long, long night. That was the only call we had the entire night, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, yeah, so we were pretty grateful for that. We did receive several calls or requests to respond, but most of the fires that happened on the 4th of July were relatively small compared to last year. They're handled by a lot of single unit responses, so instead of sending multiple engines to a single call, dispatch was dispatching the engine that's assigned to their zone. They just show up first and ask for additional resources. So some interesting statistics that came out. I was kind of looking at that, and this is just for UFA, but they said we had 45 calls for service that night. Last year it was 31. Most of those calls originated in the Mill Creek, Holiday, Cottonwood Heights, and Kearns Magnet area. That's where we were the busiest. Of those 45 calls, we sent out 85 apparatus, so it was about two apparatus per call that came in. But nothing significant happened. Most of these were dealt with the first engine, and they were canceling the other resources responding. Last year, it was 31 calls and 99 unit responses, so it's 3-to-1 basically. So pretty interesting. I think we would do what's called direct dispatch. Like I shared with you, where the dispatchers were calling us directly instead of calling the station. I think that helped out quite a bit.
How many calls did we have? You said we only had one that
One
night.
call,
How many did
literally
we have?
one call in Herriman.
How many did we have last year?
Last year we had just shy of a dozen, so I think by 1 o'clock in the morning we're on like call 13. Most of them were legitimate. A lot of small field fires last year. This year, like I say, we only had the one fire. I'm not sure what the police call volume was. One thing I do notice that we did that night is we were very visible. So before it got dark, we sent our fire units out. We patrolled, drove, made contact with as many people as possible, especially along those restricted areas where there might be some question. Some of the feedback I got was that just that as a map can be a little confusing. There's certain areas where there's pockets where it's allowed, but right next to that it's not. So a lot of the residents we talked to, they understood completely. They're very compliant. Some were apologetic. I don't think it was the person who started that fire, but the person who found it was very, very concerned with what happened. So I had a pretty long discussion with that individual. But a lot of people were just unfamiliar with what the boundaries were maybe. A lot of people had gone to the maps. So we tried to do our best to do some public outreach and make contact with people before the night. And then once it got dark, we kind of pre-positioned somewhere else and let them enjoy their evening. I definitely feel like the restrictions worked. I think a combination of having the restrictions and being visible and being more proactive than reactive, I'd like to say that had a little bit to do with it, especially with the social media stuff. The signs coming into the city all had great information. We had some portable street signs out in some of the higher risk areas, and I really do think that helped out. If we saw fireworks in a restricted area, we'd kind of drive that way and just go up and down the streets, and that typically quelled that behavior pretty quick. And for us, it was more making contact than it was getting people in trouble. We weren't out there to write tickets, and I don't think law enforcement was doing that either. I think a lot of our stuff was just community education, outreach, and just let them know, hey, you're close or you are in a restricted area, probably shouldn't be doing that. And so a lot of compliance. I was actually really impressed. I think I have some suggestions moving forward into 2019 for the 24th. I don't think there's anything that's really necessary. We'll probably stick to a very similar game plan. And traditionally, the 24th is far less busy than the 4th is, but we'll still be out. We'll have units, a little extra staffing, especially in the southwest corner where it's typically busier and higher risk, and we'll just make sure we're out and visible. So, yeah, I just definitely want to commend, the city working with us, the citizens, awesome, a lot of great people living in Herriman. I know some of these restrictions are still unpopular, and there's some questions of why we restrict those areas, but I can tell you right now, the fires we do get are right in those areas. We don't have fires in unrestricted areas because there's not a problem there. It's typically those outlying areas, and anytime we get a fire, it's typically associated with those restrictions or that area. So they work. They may not be popular, but they definitely work. And so I definitely just appreciate everyone's compliance with those. So, okay.
Riley, I have a question for you. Sorry to interrupt you. I was just wondering if you have data on the full time that they could do fireworks, because I know that was shortened by the state. Was that helpful to have that shortened, or do you know?
We don't have, I don't know if we have enough information on that. I definitely think just by reducing the window of time, you're also reducing the amount of fireworks that are being used. I do feel like that did help out. It seemed like too, just a little bit less busy. I think a lot of people did just enjoy the professional fireworks. And I do think that window, closing that gap, definitely reduces, you know, the probability of getting a fire because your time frame is much shorter. So I do feel that some of the legislation, and I'll be honest, I think that fine. I think knowing that there's a potential that you could be fined up to $1,000, that's got some teeth. And I think a lot of people just felt the threat of that. That was one thing that we shared with them, was like, you need to understand if you're caught doing this, especially after we've talked to you, that's a very likely consequence. And so I think having teeth behind the law, some kind of way to enforce it, as well as decreasing that windows, definitely helped out.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions? Awesome.
Well done.
All right, thank you. Yeah,
Hey.
thank you.
Thank you to all of those who may have been on duty that night for everything they did for our community.
Maybe a rhetorical question. How many calls did Draper have? No,
All right, we will go ahead and move on to item 5.1, public hearing and consideration of a resolution amending the 2018-2019 Herriman City fiscal budget, including information regarding the truth and taxation public hearing scheduled for August 16th, 2018 at 6 p.m.
Okay, as you remember, as we approved our budget here a few weeks ago, we didn't have the information yet for the police department. We've been working hard on that. Finally, actually finished it up this afternoon. But so we need to look at it. This is a budget amendment to approve the budget for the fiscal year 2019 for our police department, which is a fund in our general, or a department in our general fund. These are the expenses we're looking at for this year. Chief Carr talked about the personnel that's being added. We are planning 34 sworn officers and 3 civilians in the police department. And as he said, they're being added. One thing I'll point out here, in our software costs there on $111,000. VAC has worked with us very well to keep that cost at the level that it is. When we started looking at our Spillman software to run the dispatch for the police department, we found that they run on an old version of AIX computers, which are very expensive to put servers in. So we looked at one for ourselves that was expensive and it would take a long time to put in. We looked at South Jordan's. Theirs was inadequate for us, but VAC has provided the resource for us. So not only are they getting the system up and running, we're doing it with their resources, which would have been very expensive for us to replicate. So we do appreciate that. I'd point out that if we look at this in true operating costs and take our vehicle leases and our capital outlay out of this, our budget for 34 officers is almost identical to what UPD was going to charge us this year for 27. And that 27 included pooled services, which are not officers in our location. So we've done what we said we were going to do as far as our costs. We would have a surplus this year were we not doing the startup costs. Jared.
The 34 officers versus the 27, I know this body knows that, but for those watching or might not be up on all of our conversations, those are 34 that if, say, we don't hire all of them, we wouldn't pay for them. The 27, we would not have the 27 officers, but we would still be paying for them, which is a big part of it. So for the same amount we'd be paying and have actually fewer than the 27.
Absolutely.
We'll have the 34.
And so, you know, the things are falling into place. There's been a lot of, as Chief Carr said, a lot of incredible work done by a lot of partners to get to where we're at with this. A lot of the capital outlay, the $686,000, many of those items will be items that possibly will either come from UPD or will be compensated to us by UPD. But we have to budget for them as if we have to go out and buy them so that we're up and running September 30th and we have what we need for our police department to run. So we're budgeting the whole amount, but hopefully there will be some offset to that as we move forward. We'll also be looking at some fund balance and so forth from UPD, which will be probably in the range of $600,000 to $700,000 that will be coming to us. So all in all, we will be operating with a surplus in this department as we move forward. So you look at the revenue, when we look at the projected HCC property taxes and vehicle lease revenue, we're within 146,000, and that takes into consideration all the negative possibilities that are available as we go forward, so that we make sure we're covered and that our guys, when they go out on the street, have what they need to do the job and to do it safely. So as you look at that number and you think about the money that will come back from the UPD in either assets or cash, we'll be easily in a surplus situation in this department.
Alan, I know we still need to work through all of those things on the back end with UPD, but anticipated in terms of fund balance, I know you have at least some estimates of what we're looking at that possibly will come to us. What are you at on that right now?
Well, the fund balance at UPD for the general fund is just over $7 million. Our share of that should be in the range of 6 to 7%. So that's about $450,000. They also have cash balance in their internal service fund of a little over $3 million. Again, that should be about 6 to 7%, so around $200,000 is would be our share. Okay. So we're looking close to $750,000 we should get in cash for those items. There are some other items that we should be getting in equipment. If we don't get those, we will get cash in place. So, you know, we've got those negotiations to still do. We have not put into the budget the amount of money coming from UPD. We'll wait until that all settles out, which probably won't happen till at least the end of the year, maybe into the spring before we're completely worked out with that. So we'll come back to you with the revenue as a budget amendment when we get that. There's two other budget items that we want to amend at this time. The state legislature has awarded us $500,000 for trails and property for trails. So we'd like to recognize that revenue. We'd also like to budget for property acquisition of $500,000. So that's an in and out, won't change fund balance, but that'll be treated in our park impact fees. And the last item is the Olympia Hills study. Everyone knows about the Olympia Hills subdivision. This is a study we're proposing to look at what should be on that property. It will be one that will be going along the same lines of what the county's doing so that we can have our own information while they provide theirs and look at that. So this is a public hearing, so those are the items we're looking at.
Any questions by the council?
No, I think Alan and his staff have done a tremendous job putting this together, and obviously we have a compressed time frame, and I just want to tell you thanks, Alan. I know you've done a ton of work, and your staff has, along with the rest of city staff, but I think we are, I'll speak for myself, I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing so far. Fantastic.
So with that, at this time, I will then go ahead and open the public comment portion of this public hearing, correct? Public hearing portion. Any member of the public that would like to make a comment at this time, please come to the dais. All right. Seeing none, I will accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Any further discussion among the council? No?
I think I said my piece.
Okay. So
And we discussed quite a bit in work meeting if.
okay. In that case, I will accept a further motion.
I'll motion to approve resolution number R37-2018, approving an amendment to the 2018-19 fiscal year budget.
I'll second.
Okay. A motion and a second. Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion passes. All right, we will move on to item 6 of our agenda, which is the consent agenda.
Hold on, Mayor. There's another piece to that one.
It's the truth and taxation piece.
As part of that item, I've been asked to speak about the truth and taxation hearing coming up. But I also would like to mention on the police department that, as you mentioned, there's a lot of departments involved in that. We talked earlier in the work meeting, but there will be an evaluation made over time about how that's affecting the other departments and what we'll need to do there. But I was asked to mention about the truth and taxation hearing coming up, because a lot of our residents are going to be getting tax notices in the mail over the next couple of weeks telling them that we're raising taxes. And that hearing will be held on August 16th, 2018 at 6 p.m. But what's happening is we have been a member of the Salt Lake Valley Law Enforcement Service Area. We have had a tax, our residents have been taxed by Slovisa to fund police. We have withdrawn from Slovisa this year, so the tax that our residents had in Slovisa on their tax bill last year will go to zero this year, and it will be replaced by a tax of Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area.
Why does the tax notice not make note of that their taxes are decreasing while the other taxes are
That's
increasing?
right.
It seems like it would be so much
Just
simpler.
yeah, simply the ones replacing the
It
other.
would make it nice if they did, but the notice will only show the increase. It won't show the piece that's decreasing. We're working with the county auditor's office and the state tax commission
clear.
to make sure that we set a rate that will keep the residents of Herriman tax neutral. But they will see the Salt Lake Valley Law Enforcement Service Area removed from their tax roll this year. Herriman City Safety Enforcement will take its place. And like I say, the rate we're working with them on will just make it to where they would be taxed to us at the same rate they would have been taxed in Slovisa previously. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you very much, Alan. We appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Alan.
All right, we will now move on to our consent agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Sherry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion passes. All right, item 7.1, discussion and consideration of a resolution approving the First Amendment to an interlocal cooperative agreement between the local building authority of the Salt Lake Valley Fire Service Area and Herriman City for the exchange of real property.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we adopted an agreement recently and approved it, I guess, and it got executed to do a property swap up along Rose Canyon Road at about 7300 West, if y'all remember. The parcels were located up there, and this amendment essentially clarifies one part of that amendment as to when the city's obligation to do the improvements would be done. It was kind of unstated before, but understood that they would be done before or during the construction of when that property developed by the fire service area, and they just wanted that clarified. So this clause clarifies that those improvements will be in when that property develops as intended as a fire station. So be happy to answer any questions. Other than that, recommend approval on this item.
Any questions or comments by the council?
Mayor, I'll make, go ahead.
Nope.
You ready?
You're fine.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R38-2018, approving the First Amendment to an interlocal cooperative agreement between the local building authority of the Salt Lake Valley Fire Service Area and Herriman City for the exchange of real property.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, that motion passes. All right, we have Our next meeting for the Planning Commission will be July 19th at 7 p.m. Our next City Council meeting will be on August 8th. We do have the special Truth and Taxation meeting on August 16th at 6 p.m. And then the Planning Commission meeting will be held after that meeting at 7 p.m. Currently, we do want to make our residents aware that on July 24th, our offices will be closed here at the city for Pioneer Day. August 10th and 11th are the Enduro Cross, which is a fun event that is always well attended. And then I also want to make note of the Herriman Arts Council is performing the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And that, I believe, premiere tonight will be going on for several days. So we would encourage all of our residents to go and enjoy that. It's a great event every year. With that, I will accept a motion to close our city council meeting and return to our work meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you very much.